currently 2 hours ahead of our own local time. It was broad daylight. It's like noon. Sitting across from me, digitally speaking, completely socially distant, is Bishop Dwayne David Royster.
And sitting across from me is the Reverend Dr. Mark Kelly Tyler.
Man, and we can't do any of this without somebody running and holding down the ones and the twos.
Mm-hmm.
We got our own DJ Kueso. Wicca Wicca. What's up?
Good morning.
Scratching. Mixing and scratching. Okay, Kuesa, have you seen One Night in Miami yet?
I haven't because I need to get Amazon Prime. Is it on Amazon? No? Yes.
You know what? I think you're right.
Yeah. One day. Maybe
One
I'll
day.
see it. Spend a little extra cash.
So let me tell you, what's funny? If you haven't seen it yet, this is Regina King, who, by the way, man, you talk about coming up.
Oh, yeah, big time.
From Ice Cube's girlfriend holding a 40 in Boys in the Hood to just like, my God, man, she is just killing it. I mean, Now this is her her directing debut, One Night in Miami, and so it's kind of her spin on what happened, the historic night where these four figures were actually together: Sam Cooke, Jim Brown, before he lost his mind, before he got hit too much in the head, Muhammad Ali, who at that time was in the transition between Cassius Clay and Muhammad Ali.
That's right.
And Malcolm X. Bruh, could you imagine like seeing the four of them walk by like,
That's black power, black excellence right there in front of you, man.
I mean, I know Martin Luther King probably woke up that morning and said, they left me out. Malcolm, I thought we had like mended our rift. Miami ain't that far from Atlanta.
That's because they were all in the fight, though, weren't they?
Yeah, but seriously, think about it. If you were king, you probably were a little bit like, feeling some kind of way that next morning, like, I can't believe these brothers. They know I love Miami. So, yeah, One Night in Miami. I haven't seen the whole thing. I got halfway through, and then the family said they all wanted to see it, so I stopped. That's the benefit of, this live streaming now. But from what I can tell you is it is an excellent period piece. They captured the music, and so shout out to Philadelphia's own Leslie Odom Jr., who plays Sam Cooke. Now, I'm not a Hamilton guy, so I kept wondering, like, who is this guy playing Sam Cooke? Because he can actually really sing. And my family was like, dude, that was Leslie Odom of, like, Masterman. Yeah. So Tawana says she watched it last night. If you've seen it, just kind of put in the chat, is it worth watching? Everybody out on my social media has been really talking about it. And it does seem like, when you think about the issues of that day, right, these four transformational figures, Sam Cooke with music, Malcolm, obviously, Jim Brown during that day was a leading, outspoken critic. And of course, Muhammad Ali was only 22 at the time, but took his platform and just said, man, I don't care what y'all think, culminating with him being arrested and kicked out of the military for refusing to go and fight, in Vietnam. And so you think about these four and how they all use their platform in their moment. Right. It does speak in a lot of ways to the moment that we're living in today. I was happily surprised this morning to hear from a podcast that Steven Jackson, formerly of the NBA, who was very good friends with George Floyd in high school. And if you remember back during the summer, that came out and he was really out there. He revealed on a podcast that Kyrie Irving, I'm not a big Kyrie fan as a player because I think he just is in that crowd that just whine too much. But man, as an individual, Kyrie, according to Steven Jackson, bought a home for the Floyd family.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. That's awesome.
It's quite a moment.
Yeah.
And that's great he did that. But I mean, I think we do need more athletes of and entertainers and people who just have a platform, generally speaking. Nowadays, I see that includes reality TV people, right? Who do things like that behind the scenes, but we also need folk out front. Wouldn't you agree?
I do. I think that we need everybody using every tool that they have right now to work towards justice and liberation, freedom for our people. I'm often critical of sports players, primarily because I think they invest a lot of money in making other white people rich, including buying fancy cars and huge houses not made by the hands of black folk. But I do think that when they're able to do things like that, that's good. I'm also wanting folk to get in front of stuff more like LeBron, who's actually started schools and, done the things of that nature to get in front of things before there is a crisis, right? It's one thing to respond in a crisis, it's another thing to respond, and before thinking and to make investments prior to something happening. I think that's really important as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And so again, so shout out to her. I'm looking forward to finishing watching that. And when we come out of this pandemic, that streaming will be one of the things that that will be one of the stories of how people made it, right? These
Yeah,
shared kind of
absolutely.
moments.
Absolutely.
You
I
know,
was
the other
talking to
thing.
Damon about that yesterday. I was talking to my
Oh,
brother about that yesterday.
Stone? Who
Yeah,
Stone?
that's right. We were having that conversation, and I was like, "Yeah, man, streaming." Because for a long time, it was like when you really saw everything you wanted to see on Netflix or Prime Video, and then you were sort of like, "There's nothing new coming out because everything's shut down,"
Hmm.
and that became problematic. And then Hollywood started picking back up. They started releasing stuff online, streaming, and then you had a choice of what you wanted to see. But the beauty of it was, if you had to go to the bathroom in the middle of it, you just hit pause. And you just went to the bathroom and you came back. So you
That's
didn't miss
funny.
anything.
Wow. Well, listen, little feedback. I don't know Tawanda who played Malcolm. She said he was great. I thought it was an interesting choice. And the guy who did Muhammad Ali really captured his voice, which is the hardest thing to do when you play Muhammad Ali in movies. Ethelyn Lynn Baylor saw it, said it was a great movie, did not know where it was going at one point. That's kind of where I left off. She said, but it all came together in the end when they found themselves. The caterpillar is not beautiful, but the butterfly is a sight to see. Okay, can't wait. And then Bernita says, an ocular demonstration of my brother and sister's keeper.
Mm,
So again, I think that is certainly something worth watching, and we need to fill ourselves and remind ourselves of these kind of moments. Me, I love the Sankofa bird that looks backward as it
that's
walks
right.
forward,
That's right.
and the looking back informs our walking forward. And if you don't get anything from this show, you already know we reference a lot of things historically to help us make it through this moment and going forward. And so, I want to just say, even right now, as we sit at the end of the Trump presidency, with all of this hatred that has been ginned up by him over the last more than 4 years. You go back to his time as a slumlord in New York
Hmm.
and what he did to black residents there, and his attack on the Central Park Five, which he yet today has still not retracted. And you think about the kind of the end of his presidency and just the country, the chaos that it's in. I mean, you can't even trust each other. Never probably could, but I mean, now we don't. Now we got National Guard. Don't even know if you can trust the National Guard, right? And as we turn the page into something new, the Biden administration with the historic election of Kamala Harris and how we can't even be there tomorrow to celebrate that. I mean, just
Yeah.
man, that's like so painful because I remember crying, out there at the inauguration, freezing cold when Barack Obama was inaugurated in '08. And to think of all the people who would be there, the millions of people who'd be thronging, the women, Asian Americans, African Americans, all the folk who can identify in that moment. And, thanks to a Donald Trump, that's robbed of people. But if history has taught us anything, it has also taught us that, that the people who are trying to take us backwards never win,
Hmm.
never win. They always try. They're going to try. That's as sure as the sun coming up. And they're going to give it all they have. But just like the Warriors came back and beat the Lakers last night by 2 after being down 14 in the fourth quarter, We always triumph. I'm sorry, I had to get that in.
Yes, I'm sure. That was an Oakland reference. Yes. Yes.
I'm just saying, bro, that history does teach us that we have had these moments before.
Yeah. I mean,
and
there's
we have
nothing
to
new
fight.
under the sun, right? There's nothing new under the sun. And that's what the scripture tells us. And, we've lived, humanity has lived through these moments before. Not necessarily us, but humanity has lived through it. So we know that there's nothing new. And I mean, even last night when Trump was going out yesterday, I said I wasn't going to say anything about it, but I'm going to say something about it. This 1776 commission that has rewritten a revisionist history of slavery in America and the founding fathers' desire for equality and people not understanding, well, that's just the way the world was. It wasn't personal. And I mean, I started reading the whole, and I was just like, I can't do it. So I just, it was just absolutely ridiculous. So,
hold on, talk about that. Hold on. So the 1776 report, this commission, is in direct response to, I can't think of our sister's name. Somebody can post it in the chat. Who created the 1619 Project?
Right, and that
which was
actually at the time the New York Times.
Right, and so the 1619 Project, as you remember, was to that's when slavery officially started in the United States with black folk, and it's this time we're just talking about the history where we come from, and she lays out masterfully all these touchstones for black struggle for survival, triumph, roadblocks, impediments, Jim Crow, lynchings, church burnings, etc., and then all the way on up to the present. For Trump,
Nicole Hannah-Jones, Robert Garland said Nicole Hannah-Jones. Yeah.
Thank you. I saw her actually on MSNBC the other day. She was really, really good. But what they believe is that talking about that is somehow let me just read a quote. They declare, this is in the CNN article, that educators must convey a sense of enlightened patriotism that equips each generation with the knowledge of America's founding principles, a deep reverence for their liberties, and a profound love of country. The idea that public schools and K through 12 education is about reinforcing patriotic values. If you tell people the truth, people will learn to love it on their own, in spite of its bumps and warts. But there's this idea that if you tell the truth about the fact that, George Washington may have helped defeat the British, but he did it also while holding enslaved people like Hercules and Ona Judge and others enslaved, and that was not right. The Bible that we preach from doesn't give us perfect characters except Jesus. Everybody else, the ones that we celebrate, David had his Bathsheba moment.
That's right.
You know what I mean? It's, Gideon was not the best Samson, on and on and on. And it's not like you knock them down and they're being like, oh, that's not, you don't like the Bible because you're talking about David. Like, no, it's all there. But at the end, he's a man after God's own heart.
That's right.
Why can't it be balanced? I don't understand that.
Well, I mean, first of all, let's be honest, right? This whole commission, they do it the 2 days before the last day of the inauguration. I mean, before the change of power. And I think that this is a homage to all those QAnon folk and all those, the white supremacists out there. And let's be honest, there are school districts out in this country that will pick up this commission report and then use it to guide their construction of how they're going to talk about American history, which is indeed problematic, right? Because this is how seeds are sown, the lies are sown throughout generations, right? The kids will begin to learn this in schools. I mean, we already have school districts around the country that do this. As a matter of fact, some years ago with one of our sister organizations up in New Hampshire, actually a guy I went to college with, as a matter of fact, my freshman best friend, was a conservative talk show radio host in Manchester, New Hampshire, who also happened to be on the school board. And he was having a fit because the schools were teaching about slavery and about how slavery happened in the United States. And they were kind of they were kind of being very explicit about it. And he did not want his little 7-year-old daughter learning about slavery in that way because he felt it would be traumatic. And so he was introducing these ultra-conservative materials, textbooks, into the school district for them to approve to use. And it became a big fight. And then, he got called racist and called me to try to help him out. And I was like, I can't help you on this one because, this was where he was going with it was just wrong. Our organization up there was a part of the fight. They were a part of the campaign to prevent those textbooks from being used because they were revisionist textbooks that weren't very accurate. So that really kind of took out the whole slavery part basically and talked about slavery as being people who wanted a better life but didn't have money to do it. And so they came to America. I mean, it was just lies. And so, I mean, that was very problematic. So, there are folk out there that want to use those kind of materials. And there are people out there writing those kinds of materials that are very dangerous when it comes to understanding the truth about American history.
Well, listen, I mean, I posted in the chat the CNN story to what you're discussing right now, the 1776 Commission. And I think one of the greatest problems with it is that, as you said, when school districts take this and they use this as a guide for creating curriculum, this is a justification now, right? This comes from the federal government. It was a presidential commission, in spite of who the president was, that people who get information as a child, it is very difficult as an adult to change that information and get them to believe something different.
That's right. That's right.
So if you were told from the time you were in kindergarten on through high school that slaves were actually happy servants, that, slaves wanted to be here, and that, the slaves didn't want slavery to end because it was a great institution, a peculiar institution, right? Then somebody comes along and tells you, no, it's not true. You're trying to argue with something. I mean, think about your own things that you believe and hold on to from your childhood. It's very difficult. And so, so this just, I mean, again, this is such a step in the wrong direction. But again, it's what we expect from this guy. And let's just hope that we can learn our lesson, that when we face another demagogue like this, that we can band together, put our differences aside, and fight to keep these kind of people out of the paint, because this is not healthy. We're up on the break. When we come back, we'll continue this conversation and also talk a little bit about tomorrow as well. And I got to ask you about the redistricting in Pennsylvania, that big fight that's coming up. I know you got some thoughts on that. And before we go today, in the last segment, we're going to hear from Lori B. Jones, who is the new director of Philabundance. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris were in town yesterday, and guess where they stopped by to bag up food? And so we want to hear about that, but also more importantly about what food insecurity looks like in this moment in America's poorest big city and what we all ought to be thinking about to help out. So we got to take a quick break. It's the Power Hour. We'll be right back on the other side.
Hey, WURD family. Our friends at Amoroso's Baking Company are hiring right now. Amoroso's has been baking the delicious bread in our community for over 100 years, and they want you to join their team today. The old and the young love Amoroso's, and they are hiring right now. Check it out. They offer fair pay and provide health, dental, and prescription plans after 90 days employment. Call 856-754-0355 or visit amorososbaking.com for details. Have you heard about City Council's plan to build more affordable housing, repair existing homes, create jobs, and support small business? The Neighborhood Preservation Initiative will invest $400 million in Philly communities. Read about it at www.phlcouncil.com/NPI.
You're listening to WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD, independent black media.
Welcome back to the Power Hour. This is Dwayne Royster and Mark Kelly Tyler. We're here Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. to bring you the latest in news happenings around Philadelphia and, of course, our opinions. And we have many opinions. Hey, I want to jump to this thing. I know we got other stuff to talk about, but so I'm like caught up in political hypocrisy right now. And there was an article that came out of Huffington Post yesterday that noted that out of the 147 legislators, that would be the senators and congresspeople, that voted against the election, 107 of them were praising Martin Luther King yesterday.
Yeah.
They were tweeting about how wonderful Martin Luther King is, including and not limited to Lauren. What is her name? Bobette. Lauren Boebert, who is the QAnon congressperson, who actually Bernice King had to take the task when she posted Lauren Boebert tweeted, "The ultimate measure of man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at the times of challenge and controversy." And she said, Dr. Martin Luther King, hashtag MLK Day. And then the Reverend Dr. Bernice King and says, "I encourage you to study my father more comprehensively and to attend the King Center's virtual sessions on his nonviolent philosophy and his work to eradicate racism, war, and poverty. A powerful book to start with. The last one is Where Do We Go From Here?" And then there was Kayleigh McEnany, who was the press secretary, who said that we honor a hero who embodied love and faith in his pursuit for equality, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. And then she said the same thing. And then in terms of the ultimate measure of man. And then the NAACP said, "You dare not utter the words of a man who sacrificed his life in the fight for equality and truth, while you spewed hateful rhetoric and worked in the most hateful and divisive administration in modern history. Hashtag MLK Day, a call to action." And, you know, I was struggling with this as I was reading this article because, you know, it's just the hypocrisy of it all that really, that did this. So, I mean, the senators that put out statements about how wonderful King was, Rick Scott, John Kennedy, Cindy Hyde-Smith, Josh Hawley, who wrote a statement and also was the one that was the spearhead behind, like, getting rid of the election results. Ted Cruz, Cindy Loomis and from Wyoming, all these senators who were trying to prevent the election from being certified were now out here jumping up and down, talking about how wonderful Martin Luther King was. The hypocrisy of it all, it just really got to me. I was in my feelings yesterday about a whole lot of things. I was, you know, sick of people looking at people doing the day of service. We need to be doing action. There's a whole lot of racism and things happening, and service in and of itself is not enough to be able to create the change that we need to be able to get communities back to where they go. We've got to change policies. We've got to change the laws. We've got to change the decisions made by institutions of our government and business so that we can work through these things. King went after all those communities to be able to create change. And I'm like, it's not enough just to do service. We've got to change the way we operate in this country.
Yeah.
Rant.
Yeah. No rant. That was actually the opening line of my sermon Sunday.
Was it?
I'm reading it now. I'm going back to the manuscript. "I want to prepare you for tomorrow so that you are not outraged when you see it." You should have been listening. You would not have been outraged like you are now. I said, "I don't want any of you experiencing a sudden rush of high blood pressure because in the next 24 hours, you'll witness people who've lied on Black Americans, encouraged seditionists, and tried to overturn the election, standing, singing, 'We shall overcome,' making empty speeches in honor of Dr. King." See, you weren't prepared yesterday. I listened to your sermon. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I know you did listen to my sermon.
Hey, preaching one is enough.
I know you didn't go back and listen to my sermon.
but I mean, it is, listen, like you said, it drives you crazy, right? I mean, the people who are actively trying to overturn his legacy, then pausing, here, let everybody, I mean, thank God for social distance, and at least we didn't have to see them, like, you know, in a big circle, you know, Nancy Pelosi with her hand holding Mitch McConnell on one side, Ted Cruz on the other. We shall overcome. Please, just stop. You don't owe us that. We don't want it. I mean, literally.
But I think, you know, one of the things that gets me about King Day, right, we do a lot, I mean, and I was part of some of the services and stuff that were going on around the state. Yeah. And I think it's important to commemorate, but also I think I'm actually at the point now where I'm less about commemorating, and I'm like, if you really want to honor Dr. King, do his work. And, you know, let's stop, you know, navel gazing, looking backwards and hanging on to that. And then the next day we don't do anything But I'm like, let's live this out every single day. Let's make sure that we're doing the work every single day. Let's participate in our democracy every single day. Hold politicians accountable. Hold business leaders accountable. It's not enough just to come on one day. And this is why, Sheila made a comment about the day of service. Day of service is cool, but it's not. We never saw Dr. King with a paintbrush in his hand. We never saw Dr. King sweeping a broom. He was out there challenging presidents, and he was in the face of racists, and he was challenging them with soul force and with love. And so if we're going to do the work, if we want to commemorate Dr. King, let's do that work. That's the work of power, organizations that have been fighting for a very long time to create change in our community so people who are at the most marginalized are actually able to find life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Let's do that work every single day. Let's not come together, say sweet words, repeat I have a dream speech when we have absolutely no intention of working towards the dream. So that's all I'm talking about.
Well, listen, painting a school building or sweeping up a dirty neighborhood doesn't get you killed on the balcony of the Lorraine Motel.
No, it doesn't.
See, that's safe. Yes, I see Phyllis. Yeah, you can do both. But let's be honest, what's happened, at least in places like Philly, and I don't knock, folk like Todd Bernstein. Todd and I have actually become friends over the years. And so I don't knock the day of service. If that's what people want to do with their day, that's fine. It's not, you're not going to hurt anything by doing that. You aren't. But the bigger question is what happens on the other 364 days, like
Absolutely.
You just said, right?
Absolutely.
And so, look, the work, you all, is intense. And it is, man, how many times do we have to say it on this show? It is all of the meetings that you have to have with other people that you're organizing with. It's, it's showing up when it's only 5 people, not 5,000. And you were expecting 50 people to show up, and it's the 5 of you once again. But you are dedicated to this one particular issue, and you are pushing it. The wins that Dr. King and others won, so much more happened that was out of the camera than was ever in the camera.
That's right.
So, one day I'm going to finish, I do documentaries as well. So I've done about 4, and primarily on historical things in the AME church. But one of the ones that we never finished was a documentary on the activism of the AME church in South Carolina. An incredible story from the founding of Mother Emanuel to the present. And one of the people we interviewed is one of our retired bishops, and Bishop Fred James, who was one of Dr. King's lieutenants in South Carolina. They were close. But Bishop James talked about, man, you ought to hear him lay out the way that they had these campaigns organized, the way meals were put together, the schedule, and the daily grind that people had to go through. You may get like that one big flash moment and a camera opportunity, a photo op, but man, that came after like 5 years of like nobody seeing, burrowing under the ground, fighting, and pushing. And so, yeah, day of service, again, I am not going to knock anybody that does that. God bless you. But it's also about every single day pushing, grinding, and supporting the work. If you can't leave your day job to do this, then write a check to an organization that's doing this.
And then show up at a meeting at night, though. Show up at a meeting at night.
Well, nowadays, everything is on Zoom.
Well,
Zoom
really. That's true. All you got to do is get on the Zoom.
Oh, man. Y'all got our pressure up to date.
I guess I started that. But I'm just like, I'm like, I can't take it right now, right? I'm like, we had this major uprising during the summer because of Walter Wallace, and then because, that was in the fall, and then, what happened with George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor. And I'm like, okay, y'all, but that's not changing the situation with the police department, right? That's not going to change that. Getting out there and painting school buildings is not going to change that. And, I'm sorry. I know some people get offended because they're like, well, we still need to do service stuff. I'm not saying that we don't need to do service stuff. We have to do service stuff as well. But I'm saying for Dr. King, can we not focus on the service for Dr. King? And can we actually focus in on what he did? He spoke truth to power. He spoke truth to the people. He agitated and he irritated people until change became to come. Can we also get away from this sanitized version of King where people are sitting around talking about how wonderful he was when he died, he was almost one of the most hated men in America because of the transformation and change that was taking place in this country? Can we have a conversation about that? And are we willing to put ourselves out like that so that our children and our grandchildren can live in a different world because of the work that we are doing right now? That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm trying to change. That's what I'm trying to press towards. That's what I'm tired of seeing the poverty in Philadelphia. We get on here every single day. We talk about being the poorest big city in America, and the politicians aren't doing anything about it. The business leaders are worried about making more money for themselves, and everybody, they throw a little bit of money at the problem, but not enough to really solve it. Our political leaders aren't doing anything about it, and the latest thing is like, we're going to solve gun violence by doing a gun buyback program. It's been proven those programs don't work. The way you get to deal with gun violence is you got to get to those young folk before they start getting out there in the streets. Offer them hope, offer them opportunities, give them real jobs, pay them real wages, give them real benefits, make sure they have real houses to live in, make sure they have food to eat. And I know we're going to talk to Lori Jones in a few minutes. Make sure they have food to eat. That's the kind of stuff that's going to create change that we need in this country, not this crap of doing gun buybacks. It doesn't work. It just doesn't work.
Now you need to get your pressure medicine.
And I got to go. I'll take it as soon as we get done the show.
Well, I mean, I'll give her the credit for this. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez made a comment when they were asking her, like, well, what does all this stuff that you're talking about, literally like pretty much everything you just said, like, what does that look like in American cities? She said, well, we already have it. So really? She said, yeah. It's called the suburbs, right? You know, I mean,
yeah, that was cool. That was a cool statement what she said.
Yeah,
like, wow.
What you just said. I know it's really crazy, right? It's radical. This idea that, you know, I think we can stop these kids from killing each other. How? Give them jobs that pay $30 an hour. Really? That'll stop it? Yeah, because you don't have to sell drugs. If you have an actual job where you can like really take care of yourself and put some money aside and buy nice things for yourselves, like some nice sneakers like everybody else wants to get. I mean, you know, why is it like the only time people get chastised for that are like poor black folk, right? This is America. It is a consumer culture. You wave it in front of everybody. That's the biggest industry is advertising. And so then, but yet these folk are not supposed to want it. Of course people are going to want it. So treat the inner city like you treat the suburbs. Put living wage jobs in, and that one thing will go. I mean, that alone is a game changer. That begins to change everything, right? And so, I mean, look, Dr. King was hated by almost everybody when he was murdered, when he was assassinated, even his own people.
Absolutely, we don't talk about that. We don't talk about that because he spoke out about the Vietnam War.
Well, and let me tell you, and I mean, what gets me is like the woke folk who out here, like, you know, talking about Dr. King was your hero. Y'all would have been out there with Stokely. So Dr. King is a sellout. Black power. And I'm down with that too. But let's not forget that he had become, quote unquote, an old man at 39.
Right.
And was, again, written off by people who wanted to be much more extreme. And it's just funny to me now hearing them lift up King. And I'm like, come on now, seriously? I mean, he was probably one of the most misunderstood persons and lonely and isolated persons when he was killed because of everything you just said. I mean, he had ventured into something different. And he started dealing with the issue of money and America's preoccupation with putting money over people. I love the quote where he talks about in 67 that we need to move from being a thing-centered society to a people-centered society. And a people-centered society, I mean, this goes back to my argument about why defunding the police makes sense. I am for public safety. I am not going to advocate anything that will make our people less safe and make our neighborhoods more dangerous. But if your biggest line item is on security, then there's something wrong. Imagine your local church. If you're spending You know, the majority of your money in your church, not on your clergy staff, not on your music staff, not on your ministries, not on your building, but the largest line item is on security. Something is wrong in your church. You can't do ministry because you spend all your money on that. And if we're paying almost $1 billion on policing, more than we spend on education in our city, then there is absolutely something wrong. If you defund and divest from policing, take those resources and put those into the community, pay young people a living wage now with those savings, then murders go down.
That's right.
Schools improve. The tax base increases. Everything gets better when you put the resources into it. But we are not a people-centered society. Well, we are a some people-centered society.
Right.
We're not an all people-centered society.
That's right.
So, man.
Okay. Man. Man.
Yeah, I'm sorry, y'all.
Yeah, we got a little going there.
Well, pardon me for going on. Pardon.
No, that was cool. I mean, that was cool.
No,
I felt redeemed in the moment. So,
No, I'm actually talking to Donald Trump. Pardon us.
Oh.
You got one down here. You go look up Lil Wayne. Pardon me. For any future things. Pardon us all, Donald. Wave your magic
He didn't
wand.
pardon him yet, though, did he? Because he's got federal charges against him.
He's going to. Lil Wayne will get off on that gun charge. Donald wouldn't do that to Lil Wayne, would he? Hanging out, he did that awkward photo shoot with him in that weird sweater, looking like some little homeless boy. We got to take a break, man. Pardon us. We'll be right back. It's the Power Hour.
Hi, this is John.
Hi, this is Juanita, owners of JD's Auto Body and Painting. We're located at 6300 Wayne Avenue, right there at the intersection of Wayne and Washington Lane.
We really like to thank all you WURD listeners for the support that you've given our business, and we really hope to see you in the future.
JD, tell them about our products and services we have.
We have a new state-of-the-art paint shop along with our body shop and detail shop. We can help you with the dents and scratches from the winter season.
Come to JD's Auto Body and Painting. Come on out and check us out. We're still honoring that WURD 10% discount. Give us a call, 215-848-5949. Again, 215-848-5949.
Thanks again for supporting our business. We really appreciate you.
See you at JD's Auto Body and Painting.
Listen to Laborers Live.
We created the weekend. We created the 40-hour work week. We just want enough to feed our family, be able to send our children to college, and let our next generation do better than we did.
To people that might have forgot how important unionism is in a country like the United States. People now infringing on our 8-hour workday, trying to work people more than 8 hours without overtime, trying to work people without benefits. In the long run, everybody's getting a fat paycheck except the worker. So this is really a wake-up call for America.
The struggle is continuous. Tune in to Laborers Live every Friday from 4 to 5 p.m. Sponsored by LESIT, the Laborers Employers Cooperation Education Trust of the Laborers District Council of Philadelphia and vicinity.
Local 332, Sam Staten Jr. Business Manager. Local 57, Esteban Vera Business Manager. Local 135, Dan Woodall Jr. Business Manager. Local 413, James Harper Jr. Business Manager. The Laborers District Council, Ryan Boyer Business Manager, and Tony Staten, Executive Director of LESIT.
Now, a traffic update on WURD Radio.
Good morning. This report sponsored by ChallengesWeFace.org. Some hauling picks up here around the Philadelphia area. Schuylkill Expressway, westbound University through 30th, jamming through the construction. Eastbound South Street to University, a heavy ride there. Again, Broad Street to Front Street, you're busy through construction. Westbound Vine Expressway, Parkway through the Schuylkill Expressway, a bit slow. Southbound 95, slowing Cobman down through Bridge. Again, Allegheny through Girard. Northbound 95, moving fine. 42 in the major roads in New Jersey, not too bad yet. Something's wrong. You can feel it. News is too biased. Social media too censored. Even more extreme ideology is tearing us apart. What is fueling the vision? Visit challengesweface.org to learn more. For more traffic information, log on to sigalert.com. Jim Bachman with your Philadelphia area traffic.
Now, a WURD weather update. Here's NBC 10 First Alert meteorologist Bill Henley.
A cold breeze blowing this morning, mainly clear skies, so we'll get some sunshine and warm into the low 40s by lunchtime. But with the wind blowing, it's going to feel like it's in the 30s. Partly sunny skies to mostly sunny skies this afternoon and a high of 43. Cold night tonight. A cold front comes through. Might even give us an isolated snow shower tomorrow morning. Then sunshine and clouds and temperatures that will top out in the upper 30s. A high of 38 is going to feel like it's in the 20s through the day on Wednesday. A very cold start to Thursday. The low of 23 in the city warms to 42 with partly sunny skies Thursday afternoon. I'm NBC 10 First Alert meteorologist Bill Henley with your most accurate forecast. Count on it.
You're listening to WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD, independent black media.
Welcome back to the Power Hour. This is Dwayne Royster along with Mark Kelly Tyler. Again, we're here Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. to bring you the latest in news happenings around Philadelphia and, of course, our opinions, which you just got the last 20 minutes of. So we had plenty to share this morning. We got a special guest joining us on the dime. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Tyler to take it away.
Hey, listen. So let me just say this real quick. Will Mega asked on Facebook as a Kappa. He asked, "Are there any jewels that I can share?" Being facetious. Any jewels, yes, that I can share as an alpha about Dr. King, since he was the most well-known member of Alpha Phi Alpha. I'll just tell you this, because I just learned this yesterday. I mean, I knew he had pledged in Boston, so he went over in 1952 after leaving Morehouse and going up to Boston. And I'll give you this little jewel, his line name, Tweety Bird.
Wow.
Don't ask me what that's about. But Dr. King, when he went over, they called him Tweety Bird.
So he pledged grad chapter.
Yeah, but he was young. Remember, he went to Morehouse when he was like 15.
Yeah.
So
the Gamma chapter's in Boston, so it's a statewide Alpha chapter.
Yeah. So, I mean, in fact, and this was after he had gone to seminary down at Crozier.
Yeah.
So he left Morehouse, came here to the Philadelphia area, Chester, went on up there. So he's still probably, like 20? I think I just said he was 22. He was 22 years old, I think. Yeah. So there you go, Will Mega, for whatever it's worth. Now you can call him Reverend Dr. Tweety Bird King. There you go. All right. So let's talk about yesterday. We've been talking about yesterday. And as we think about King, yesterday, one of the groups that was doing a lot of good, they do it every day, get a lot of attention on King Day. But as we said, this is an everyday grind for Philabundance. And they are now led by one of our good friends here in the city of Philadelphia, Lori Jones, and she is on this morning. Good morning, Lori. Welcome to the Power Hour.
Good morning, Reverend Tyler. Good morning, Bishop Royster. Thanks for having me on.
Good morning.
Yeah, so listen, yesterday, you all already doing a big thing. You got food going like crazy. Everybody wants to show up because it's King Day. You wish you can get those volunteers every day, I'm sure. And lo and behold, somebody comes and tells you, hey, CEO, you got a couple of special VIPs, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. What do you do?
It was really incredible, and I love that you said what you did about Philabundance. I have the honor of leading an organization that for years has really dedicated itself to supporting the least among us, and I'm going to tell you why I use that phrase. And so we have the opportunity, the privilege of helping people in this region get access to fresh, healthy food every day. And we also are working with partners to really address the root cause of poverty to keep people from needing to access that emergency food anyway. So that's already an honor and privilege. And then I heard you all talking about Dr. King. He has a special place in my heart. I was born on his birthday, and so that's always been a call to action for me. And I've worked at the King Papers Project in Atlanta and at Stanford, and I appreciate what you all are saying about really the complexity of his message and not just what some of us like to believe and uphold. I'm going to get to the point, but I also want to say the other special guest we had yesterday is we had a woman, Claire Babbino Fontenot, who is the national CEO of Feeding America. She is members of 200 organizations like mine. She is an African-American woman, a former Walmart executive C-suite who left for a higher calling to lead this work. And so please look her up. We'd love to get her on your show at some point. So she was coming. So I was thrilled to have that person in leadership in our space and to be able to learn from her and have her inspire my team. But yes, we got a call a few days ago that President-elect and Dr. Biden were considering coming to our space, that my sorority sister, VP-elect former Senator Kamala Harris, was going to go to a food pantry down in D.C. And we could not be more thrilled to have the opportunity to highlight the work that we do. And so we started planning, made sure that some of our volunteers who came most often, including a vet who's come for 11 years at 5 a.m. twice a week to serve people. Nobody knows him. Howard, awesome guy. We made sure he was in the space as well. So we had the opportunity to really plan, have the Secret Service come through, but more importantly, to have this opportunity to raise awareness about the folks that, as he said himself, are considered the least among us. He said, I will judge you. This is President-elect Biden made this comment. He said, we're going to be judged by how we treat the least among us. And he, sent a message to my staff that, congratulating and celebrating them for doing that work. And I'm just happy, frankly, that we had the opportunity for more people to see that around the country and world, so they can join our fight and our quest to support our neighbors in need.
Wow, thanks for that clarification. I guess the picture I saw, I thought that was VP-elect, but that was Dr. Jill under that hat and mask. But that's incredible. And I guess one of the questions I have, I know Bishop has some questions as well, but one of them is, how does a Biden presidency impact the work of Philabundance? And really, I think you touched on something, which is, yes, great to feed the hungry and to clothe the naked and to house the homeless and all that. But we are always interested in the root causes and root solutions. Do you see them moving the dial any to kind of put you out of work?
Absolutely. I think that's the work that they are going to be committed to. I was struck. I had about 2 minutes, literally, to walk Dr. Biden, President-elect Biden, and their daughter and grandkids down a ramp. It was like 2 minutes. And I said that to them. I said, I'm glad you all are here. We're going to focus on how we relieve hunger now. But when you come back and visit again, we're going to talk about how our work to end hunger for good. We're going to talk about our culinary arts training program that that's been operating for 20 years. We just operated a state-of-the-art facility right at 10th and Dauphin, and the work that we're doing with other partners to address the root causes. So I said, we're going to bring you back to address the root cause of poverty and end hunger for good. And he gave me this fist bump, and he said, and we're going to help you with that, and we're going to put money behind it. So what we believe he's going to do really soon is announce a program that really is going to address poverty and hunger in a significant way, and we're hoping that he does that by supporting food banks like Philabundance in the Feeding America network across the country. We hope he does that by supporting what we've been calling for a while, which is an increase to SNAP, what we used to know as food banks. Which we used to know as food just early in the morning, food stamps, which gives everyday citizens access to the funds so they can pick out the food they want for their families. They have that choice and dignity. It also supports our economy because people are purchasing that food in our local stores. We think they're going to do that. We know, I heard you all talking about raising the minimum wage. That's actually something that we did at Philabundance. They did at Philabundance before I got there. I can't take credit for it, but I'm glad they did it. We do have a starting salary of $15 an hour. So I think that he's going to put together a really comprehensive plan. I think he's going to put something together, put it to Congress, and we know that we're in a great position with my Morehouse brother and my Spellman sister, what they did in Georgia, kind of taking us over the top in the Senate. So I think that he's going to put together something comprehensive that's going to put money back in the hands and pockets of the working poor and everyday folks, and then support programs and organizations like ours.
Lori, thank you for that. And I'm just curious, how are you, kind of switching gears a little bit here, and I know we don't have a huge amount of time, but how are you all managing in the midst of COVID? I know that the need for food has gone way up. How are you all working in this moment?
Yeah, so we are, first and foremost ensuring that our folks are healthy and safe, and so we are following strictly CDC protocols, gloves, masks, taking temperatures, requiring screenings, all of those kinds of things. But the need has increased dramatically. In our area, we're seeing like 60% more people who are lining up for food. And so we have been fundraising, and we have been actually participating in government programs The USDA had a decent program, needed some tweaks, so we were able to get access to more government commodities, government food to get to people. We actually ended up having to rent additional warehouse space. We set a higher goal. Normally we give out about 24, 25 million pounds of food. Last year, final count, I thought it was 50. We're up to 57 million pounds of food. So we are just doing more and more to really try to meet this growing need. And as you guys were talking about, it's caused by COVID and the accompanying economic crisis.
Wow. Well, look, Lori, we're up at the end of our program for the day. Thank you for, at the last minute. Know you're probably up late last night fielding calls and media, but thanks for what you do every day. Congratulations on yesterday. That's Absolutely. A big shot in the arm for the program, and continue the work each and every day. Appreciate you. Thank you so much for your leadership and for what you all are doing and the activism that you guys are leading in our city. I love you both. Take care. All right. Lori B. Jones Spellman, our neighbor, CAU. I keep trying to tell y'all, send your children to HBCUs. Dr. King went to Morehouse. Thurgood Marshall, Howard. On and on and on and on. I'm not knocking anybody. I'm just simply saying we prepare leaders. You know how? We know why? Because we throw you into an environment with nothing, and only the strong come out. Like, if you can make it with old textbooks and no shoes on your feet, you can make it anywhere. That's a tremendous story. What?
Here we go.
What happened?
No,
What?
I'm like you getting ready to go. Oh, we ain't got nothing. It's like, you ever sit around and listen to your parents. I try to outpour each other, with their friends. I was so poor, I didn't have soles to my shoes, just leather on top, and I was walking on the concrete.
Dwayne, listen, have you ever heard Chappelle's skit where he talks about his son went off to visit and spent the night with some white friends and came home and said, Dad, everything worked at their house. That's what happens when you go to HBCU and then you go visit your friend at Boston U or something. You come back and say, man, everything. We had one temperature in the wintertime in the dorm. One.
That's right.
So you just open the window, and that's how you got kind of regulate your heat. You kind of stayed in the middle of the room between the extreme cold and the extreme heat. I know we're out of time, but look, man, great conversation. And tomorrow is the big day. Sleep well, folks. The sun will rise tomorrow, and by the end of the day, Lord willing, the creek don't rise, we'll have a brand new president.
All right. We'll be back tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. to bring you the latest news happenings around Philadelphia and, of course, our opinions. We thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you to Lori Jones, CEO of Philabundance, for being here with us. Everybody that checked in on Facebook and YouTube, all you that are out there listening to us, stay tuned for Wake Up with Word with Solomon Jones. And listen, family, go out. Change the damn world, because if you don't, nobody else will. Peace.
Weight on my shoulders.